Hello, hello. It is 5:39 p.m. Monday, October 31st. Here for the post-market review and recap video. Starting with the economic calendar here, we had a pretty light day for data. Only had the U.S. come out with the Chicago PMI at 9:45. They were expecting a slight increase from the previous, and it actually came out disappointing the forecast and having a slightly below previous decrease in the Chicago PMI. So a little bit of bad data adds to recession fears, which dampens the overall higher time frame trend. But as we can see, we actually shrugged that off. Well, the market shrugged it off as stock markets across the U.S. closed out in the red. U.S. dollar closed out positive for the day, almost 80 basis points up in the green here. So we had a softening of the equities and strengthening of the DXY, and we had that analysis from the pre-session video here, as we saw and we observed on the US dollar that we're maintaining this pullback structure from these lows. And just over the London session, we had a new higher high, break of structure, break above previous sell side zones here, and we're maintaining some structure and actually continue to pump over the New York session. So we're playing that US dollar bullish bias for this session. And on top of that, we had some confirmations over in the equity markets as we started to reject our daily breaker structure and started creating some bearish structure. And over near the New York Open, right down here, 8 a.m. around, we had this lower high, and we started printing some lower lows, starting to reject below this daily breaker structure and create a new intraday lows here. All right, so we had some confirmations of equity softening, dollar strengthening, and we had our trade ideas for gold selling below this 4-hour demand zone. So a quick recap of the gold market structure. Obviously, we know the higher time frames on gold is extremely bearish, playing the macro bearish sentiment with the Fed rate hike cycle combating inflation. Right, so that we know this is bearish for gold. However, we had this pullback, and we started getting some rejections and sellers come back into play, where we had this lower high around 1667. Sellers come in and aggressively print new lower lows, breaking back below 1655, which is these previous structure lows on the 4-hour, breaking back below the daily breaker structure 1654, and also breaking back this previous structure lows here 1649. So sellers extremely strong here, printing these new lower lows, breaking this structure, correcting the entire move to the upside here, starting from this structure level right here 1638. So from these lows, started having a pullback overnight, created a double top around London session, and then we had these new lower lows printed. Right, so at this point we have all time frames, market structure pointing to one direction. We have the 1 hour is bearish, printing a fresh new 1 hour breaker structure below 1640. We have the 4-hour structure is bearish, breaking below 1649 and 1654 previous structure levels. And the daily time frame and the weekly and the higher time frames we all know is extremely bearish as well. Now the trade ideas for the day was I didn't want to sell at the 1 hour break and retest just because we're still above this important significant level in the market, 1638. So I prefer to wait for the rejection confirmations, breaking back below this key level and starting to see some rejections on the lower time frames to take the sell below this support area. So based on that trade idea, looking at the 15-minute, I've also identified these zones, right? So we had these new lows printed around 1636. We had the 1 hour previous structure, break and retest, and we're starting to get some rejections with these wick rejections on the 15-minute time frame. Moving to the 1 minute. Now, on the 1 minute, let's break down the price action so far. We had this 1 hour break of structure over the London session, creating new lower lows. Since then, we've had a pullback, double bottom, new highs on the 1 minute, right? But the highs were just retesting these previous levels of sell side liquidity on the 1 hour time frame. Then we had an order block and consolidation region, a very tight consolidation, accumulating sell orders prior to a new break right at the 1 hour structure. So usually this is a very nice signal for me to take a sell. So usually I'd be looking for sells at this level, but based on the higher time frame analysis, I was only looking to sell with confirmations below the 4 hour demand level, right? So this was a little bit more risky in my mind, but also pretty valid if you want to aggressively manage the position. But I'll be waiting for the safer entries below this level. Now, as price moves forward, we have the 8 o'clock open. We're pulling back to retest this level of liquidity, these previous candle bodies. And now at this point, this is a nice little double top, especially with the confirmation of this bearish candle totally engulfing this previous bullish price action, getting completely engulfed, and we get sellers come back into play. Right, so selling at this area, we'd be into profits right now, but again, I was waiting for 1638 to break, and we finally got that break right around 8:30, right after the 8:30 candle. Now we got the break. We're starting to get some the retest here. Now at this point, I want to see a bearish candle. I've got a bearish candle. So we got a break, retest, and now I would love to see the double top on the 1 minute time frame. That's my entry confirmation. Based on previous trade ideas, we got a nice rejection area, 1 minute rejections, lining up with previous candle bodies. Like, let me take this off here. Lining up with this previous structure level, this double bottom here that led to the pullback. Now we got a nice clean break. Got a consolidation region as we retested the first time, then we finally got the break. Now we got the retest, we got the first rejection. Now looking to take the second retest right here. See how it rejects exactly on the candle bodies. So you're entering right at the retest at the double top here. You could have a 10 to 15 pip stop depending on how aggressive you want to be here. But looking for a 3 to 1 with a 15 pip stop loss, you get rejections directly from that zone, start to consolidate a little bit, but then we got the continuation move leading up to the New York Stock Exchange open. Right, so right at 9:30, you hit your take profit. Right, so really nice trade here. Again, this area would have been a better sell zone, a better price point, right? You're selling at 1640 instead of 1638. You're 20 pips better. But I preferred to wait for the confirmations of this break and then getting the retest double top confirmation to take the sell. So for me, this was a textbook trade. We had the confirmations of the dollar strength. We had the confirmations of the equities softening. We had the confirmations of breaking below our key level. We had the confirmation, obviously, of market structure on all time frames actually being bearish. On the 1 minute is bearish, the 1 hour is bearish, the 4 hours bearish, the daily and the higher time frames are bearish. We've got all market structure pointing towards the sells. So we're just riding the wave of the sellers here, getting a nice break in retest, double top confirmation right around 1638 and taking it for a 3 to 1 down to these lows here. Now for me, this was my trade And this was my trade in and out. Obviously, we're adjusting and adapting to the market conditions. As we know, we're expecting low volume and volatility, not expecting this entire higher time frame range to fill, as we know the big fundamental event for the week is coming on Wednesday. So there's not going to be a huge amount of volume and volatility until investors know the positioning of the Fed. So cleaner moves are going to come at the end of the week after the Wednesday FOMC. But for me, I had all my confirmations to take a sell on gold here, and it worked out pretty well. So you can see here we had the retest here, but now at this point, be very cautious because we're starting to flip our structure, and this is looking more like a liquidity grab, and buyers are printing our way back above these previous lows here and starting to have higher low supports here, right? So you see how this break and retest were bearish, right? We just printed a new lower low. We're rejecting previous bearish structure, and we got the rejections here. But you see here, we're actually printing new higher highs, and then buyers are actually showing a little bit more strength after picking up these lower prices. And we actually see that time the retest did not work, as we got a deeper retest to retest better supply zones, and finally got the sell closer to the London close, where we retested that 15-minute zone around 1642. So that's it for today. Just a nice little sell scalp for the day, as overall it was pretty slow, but definitely some opportunities here to take some easy pips, as we had all of our confirmations of sentiment, market structure, and price action.